Hello, everyone. Welcome to History or Tea Time History Chat Live. I hope you're all well. I can hear an echo, and I think I know why. Let me know if you can hear it too. If you can't, then I will carry on. But I want to show you today some incredible pieces that have been sent to me um, by a friend whose father had collected them. And when their father passed away, they very kindly sent them on to me as someone who they think would appreciate them and will be able to share them with the wider audience. And they're basically popular publications. So I suppose we'd call magazines from, well, I've got a variety. If you see behind me, I've actually got, so those of you listening on the podcast, I've actually got a broad sheet, excuse me, of the funeral of George V. Oh, you can't hear the echo. That's fine. I'll carry on then. Yeah, George V. I have similar for George VI. I have a huge amount about the coronation, but the ones I'm going to take you through today, in shortly, are a couple that are from the World War II. So, and they have in there. I mean, the adverts are insane. They're so fun to look at. But all the uh, people's sort of readers' letters, what the articles are about. Anyway, I'll take you through them soon. But thank you very much for joining me. I'm streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and if you are watching live, welcome. I can see Deborah, Amanda, Diane, Marianne, welcome. If you are listening on the catch up, welcome to you too, and maybe you're listening on the podcast. So today, and Linda's there in Michigan, welcome. I have been on my travels. So before I get to what we're doing today, I've been on my travels. I was away with the History After Dark girls on the weekend. We went to Stratford-upon-Avon, and I've actually got some photographs for you to show, well, to share on Instagram, which I'll share, of my early morning run that I went on. Very nice to do it before everyone else got up. Excuse me. Oh, it's gone really croaky. So yeah, we had a nice weekend away. We sort of spent 99% of the time gossiping and then 1% planning, but the plan was amazing. Manda, have any of the pieces that I've got being digitized? No idea, actually. I haven't looked, and if not, do I plan to? Maybe. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with them yet. I have all sorts. I have tube maps from the Queen's coronation. I have things from her wedding. I have all sorts. So maybe I will keep them very safe in the meantime, but while I decide what to do with them. So Stratford-upon-Avon this weekend. That was very fun. And my travels continue. Tomorrow I am heading down to Hampton Court. I'm going to visit one of the hotels that we're using for the Catherine Howard tour, which is, I'm very, very happy to say, is sold out. It took a week to sell out, which is incredible. Very much looking forward to doing that. That's September 2025. If you think you'd be interested in doing it, and you're not on it, then please do email me at office@britishhistorytours.com, and we'll look at putting on another one perhaps. Similar with the Rise of the Tudors, which is happening this September. That is fully booked, and if there's enough interest, I'll put that one on again as well. That one goes to Wales. So we go to Pembroke Castle, Raglan Castle. We also go down to Winchester. We visit Ludlow and Worcester and Gloucester Cathedral. So it's a really fun one. Yes, so I'll be able to tell everyone, who Linda included, who is booked onto the Rise, excuse me, not the Rise, the Catherine Howard tour. I'll be able to share with you even more detail about the hotels, etc. When I'm back from that. And then next week, I'm off to a couple of places that I'll tell you about that next Wednesday. Grimthorpe Castle and Burley House. So I will I'll talk to you about those next week when I'm back. Before we move on, available now in Patreon, and so next Tuesday for everyone else, my interview with Sharon Bennett Connolly about the women of the anarchy. Also, if you're my Patreon, you get the bonus section where she talks about, well, she answers your questions, but I also got her to talk about women of the Magna Carta as well, which is another book that she's written. Also in Patreon, I think I must have mentioned last week all the talks that are going to be going live in Patreon. All these ones from the tours. So far 2 of talks from Kate McCaffrey, one that follows on from the other. So hence them both being published one after the other. They're already available in Patreon. And as of next week, James Clark's talk, Anne Boleyn's Religion, Henry VIII's Reformation, will be live, and it's an incredible talk because he's not coming from it from a traditional sort of Tudor historian and Boleyn historian point of view. He's coming from it from the understanding of religious reform through the Middle Ages and into the Tudor period, and so his insights are fresh and very interesting, kind of challenging. So really worth a watch. Okay, so I'm going to give this a go. I'm a bit concerned that there might be some sound issues with doing this, but let's give it a go. Okay, so because these are basically, so I've got this pile of these publications. So 2 are picture post, and I'm not going to go through I think we'll probably have so much to talk about, but I've got one illustrated that I have picked out some stories to look at. And then there's another 2 illustrated, which like I said, if I move out the way, I don't know if you'll be able to see. No, you can't really see, but behind me is just a massive pile. I've got so much. It's wonderful. So what have we got? Manda says, excuse me, as much as I love primary sources, the archivist in me always worries about only copies being destroyed. At least digital copies are harder to lose. Yes, indeed. And you'll already see how fragile these have become. This first one is August 17, 1940, and it's very fragile. And actually behind me, the broadsheet of George V's funeral is incredibly fragile. It's really, the paper has got very dry. So I'm taking very, very good care of it, but I'm sure there's experts out there who could help me be able to do it better. So yeah, as you can see, so this first one, August 17th, 1940, picture post, excuse me. And it's talking about what are people going to do? Basically, the lead story is about air raids, because this is before the London Blitz, although it does actually talk about how some places had already suffered air raids. So I'm going to try and be very careful with it. So the front cover has actually already come off. Now there's a few things. Like the adverts, you'll see as we go through. You'll see. I'll pick out some of them, but you'll probably I don't know if you can read them very well, but you'll see there's lots of cigarette adverts which are really funny. Funny is probably not the right word, but in terms of you'll see ones that are saying mild on your throat. You'll see ones that are saying smells great for the home. It's interesting. Oh, sorry, my voice is really going as soon as I've come on. Right, this one over here. First of all, in defense of Britain, and this is an advert encouraging people to buy savings bonds. So effectively, they were lending money to the government by buying government bonds and paying for the war effort. And whole thing here about people being encouraged to do that. You can see it says issued by the National Savings Committee, London. This money is needed to defend the fort, so redouble your saving. Lend every pound, every shilling, every penny to the nation now, in bold. Go to your post office or your bank and put your money into savings certificates, defence bonds, or national war bonds, or deposit your savings in the post office or trustee savings bank. And these bonds, I mean, people still buy bonds today. I remember growing up and people having cashing in these bonds. Over here are readers' letters. Now, all of them, I could read all of them to you, because they're all very, very interesting. Pamela says we did that in America too. Kind of, icky looking back at it. If you ever read anything on the history of money, bonds, especially in wartime, come into it quite significantly. It's as Pamela says, bit icky. Okay, so I'm going to try. Amanda says they're so fragile due to being printed on wood pulp paper instead of rag stock. Oh, interesting, Amanda. So, do you know, is this a different sort of paper because it was wartime? That's interesting. I hadn't even thought of that. So we've got over here Armada Spirit Recaptured, which I thought you lot might like. It talks about the article on the so obviously these reader letters generally come in about a story which was in the previous week or two, which I don't necessarily have. In fact, unfortunately, I only have 2 wartime picture posts, which honestly they're such a treasure trove, like I keep saying, but it would be amazing to find more. So it talks about God, I've got to read this from quite a way away. This article on the Observer Post comparing the men of this service with our forebears who watched for the Armada was the most stirring piece of home front propaganda since Mr. Duff Cooper's broadcast recitation of Lord Macaulay's poem on the subject. Although the modern posts send their warning by invisible telephone lines, the building of fire beacons to blaze the message of resistance across the countryside once more in the event of invasion would have a most invigorating moral effect. I like that, do you? Amanda says the switch was done in the early 1800s due to wood pulp being cheaper, though in wartime the quality was probably even worse. Yeah, good point. And then, was it this one I wanted to say about economics in dumb friendship? Was that the one? Oh, yes. Oh, goodness. So, any of you who are animal lovers, I don't know if you know this story, but there was talk early on in the war of if we were invaded, that people would need to basically kill their pets because they would be taking resources. And here it's actually, so it's entitled Economics of Dumb Friendship, written by Marie Goodall of Westbank, Norton Ipswich. What is all this nonsense about destroying our dogs? I have a pedigree wire-haired bitch, and here's a summary of her use to me. Watchdog and good companion. My husband is in the RAF, and so I don't see him very often. That was number 1. Number 2, vermin destroyer. Her record for one day's work is over 80 mice and 80 rats. Point number 3, rabbit catcher. Record and a record evening 9. For all this, she costs about 6p a week to feed. My guess is that the vermin she destroys would eat about 1,000 times as much as she does in a year. Destroy her, I couldn't afford to do it. I thought you'd find that interesting, that it was even tabled. Yes, someone said about the cigarette advert. Definitely mild. Now, what was it that I wanted to... What was it that I wanted to put out here? But here you can see all the adverts, um, pests. So cockroach and beetle poison. This new bedside lamp with electric clock underneath it. That's quite fabulous. Um, I think it was this one. Working overtime again. Then you'll be used to what then you'll need to watch out for tired skin. Nothing causes it as quickly as long hours in stuffy factories or offices, but there's a remedy. My own one, Castile. A regular wash with my favorite beauty soap will protect your skin against wartime strain. If only it was that simple. Okay, and then the last one for this. So here we are. I was saying about this is pre it's pre the Blitz. So I think I wouldn't like to say that nowhere had an an airstrike by this point, because earlier on in one of the articles it did talk about that. Deborah, my husband would love the cigar ad. Yeah, honestly, I could, because it's because it's so old. Even the mundane, it's sort of old, but within um not necessarily, obviously not living memory necessarily, but like people we knew well lived through this. And so we've heard about it and we've known them. And to read publications that were read by quote unquote ordinary people in this time, honestly, I could read you everything. There's nothing, even the most mundane thing is not mundane to me, and I'm assuming you. So even down to the smallest adverts. Oh, did I have something else? Oh no, that was that one, wasn't it? Okay, so you've got these wonderful illustrations showing what would happen if an enemy plane is sighted and what would happen if the bombs actually fell. And and they're all, it's like a picture diagram of a tree of what would happen. So for instance, if a enemy plane is sighted, so you've got these guys up here in one of the observation posts, so somewhere like the pillboxes on uh, Bossington Beach, which I've shared with you in the past. I like this. It doesn't actually say how they get there, but anyway, they get their message to Fighter Command, who put out a message to the GPO. The what does that stand for? Post office, but anyway, the telephone exchange, to the control centre and to police HQ, who get in touch with the fire services and the local police. You've got the control centres who report to the local control centres, or report centres, and the warden's post, and they set off the siren. Fire services get ready, police get ready, wardens get ready, and the citizen takes cover. Down here, the citizen takes cover. It does say here, note, there are differences to local procedures for which no single diagram can allow. I'm doing quite well, to be honest. To be able to read this, it's so small, and I'm very short-sighted. Okay. And then when a bomb falls, I just, there's the illustrations are so beautiful. And for instance, this one here, control center, is actually, I don't know if I can find it, and I don't want to, is it? It's, if you have a look, it's actually a sketch of this photograph of of the command center that's been taken, and then they have they've written it. Sorry, they've drawn a they've drawn it there. Right, let's get on to the next one. Oh, see how fragile they are. I'm going to take two hands to move that one out of the way. Right. So that was that last one was 1940. So August 1940. Really, well, it's a year on. I was going to say early on in the war, but I mean, a year feels long enough, doesn't it? This one, July 17th, 1943. Um, and the cover is a girl of the Women's Junior Air Corps at Bellevue, Manchester. There is a whole article in there. I wasn't particularly going to go over that one today, but this one, Two Views on Germany. And this was around a discussion, or the discussion piece was, are the people of Germany responsible for what's happening? So we'll come to that. But again, we have some wonderful readers' letters. And you'll see also you've got Macintosh's always in Quality Street. That is now just, you see Quality Street, General Post Office it was. Thank you. Yeah, Macintosh's is the more prominent name there, but obviously that is just Quality Street chocolates now. Move that around. So, readers' letters, and I think again, just incredibly insightful. So we have here an 18-year-old soldier. An 18-year-old soldier thinks about after the war. Bear in mind, they've got no idea how long this is going on for. I'm 18 years old and a keen motorcycle enthusiast. Much good work has been done by Picture Post in making sure that post-war reconstruction is being prepared, which is fabulous. It would be pleasant to know what our pleasures will be like. Perhaps you could investigate the facilities for recreation for teetotal and non-smoking youths who, in most provincial towns, will have no go-ahead milk bars, etc., and are forced either into a pub or the pin table hangout. Signalman K. So there's an 18-year-old saying, after the war, do you know what? Pubs aren't my thing. Pubs aren't my thing, and yet there's nothing else to do. What do you think? What do you think could happen? Okay, I'm going to struggle to read this. So I'm going to pull this a bit closer. So apologies if you can't see it, but I need to be able to read it. A schoolgirl discovers why there won't be more children. One thing that I found, and I'll probably end up writing some stuff for Patreon on this as I come across things, is that a lot of the concerns are so similar to the concerns that people express today. So anyway, let's do this. In post-war days, and this is written by Jean Sherris, who's 13 at the time, from Linton. Oh, I know Linton, in North Devon. In post-war days, we hope to see many more happy families existing than there are at the present moment. Men and women who are fighting will come back full of ambitions for a better England. Many people who are children now will have no children. Many people who are children now will have no children because they know what a hard life children of this generation lead. Parents, especially mothers, expect their children to do most of the drudgery of housework without a murmur. When I was a little girl, she's 13, I had to do this and that, I had to do this and that. So why shouldn't you? They say. If a child sees a fault, so she's talking, obviously parroting her mother there. If a child sees a fault in his parents' reasoning, why should he not be at liberty to tell his parents so? Children of post-war England should have freedom, and it is up to parents to give it to them. I like that one. And then this one. This one is sad. And in fact, the paper themselves writes a note underneath, because they have published it anonymously, and in fact they title it "We publish an anonymous letter." They say, over this letter we have broken our usual rule, which is to publish no letters whose writers do not give us their names and addresses. We have, however, made the fullest inquiries. The general facts as are given by the writer, or as the writer gives them, and the general facts are as the writer gives them, and the grievance which affects a considerable number of men. Now, this is very interesting, and like I say, sad and heartbreaking. So, the man writes, who is a Lance Bombardier, and that's the only thing we know about him. I have been in the army since the outbreak of war. So this is 1943. and was abroad until the end of April this year. I married 7 years ago and was devoted to my wife. While I was abroad, she got my marriage allowance and I made an additional voluntary contribution from my pay. When I came home, I went straight to our flat, but I found my wife was living with another man, actually in our own home. I saw solicitors about it and I filed a petition for divorce at once, that is to say, early in May. My solicitors tell me that there is no hope of my case being heard until October at the very earliest, and that it may not be reached until practically the end of the year. Mine is, of course, an undefended case, and I believe that when it is heard, the proceedings will not last more than 10 minutes at the most. I understand the delay is largely due to the fact that judges are mostly on holiday from July 31st until October. Nice. Even when they are working, I understand the judges only sit in London from 11 o'clock until 4 p.m. or until 4, and never on Saturdays. They get a salary, I think, of 5,000 a year. Would it be asking too much of them to give up, say, half of their summer holiday to try undefended cases? If they did this, all the arrears of undefended cases could be cleared in no time. Um, where did it go? If they did this, all the yeah, even if it is not only the question of myself, but the difficulty that arises with regard to small children when there is so much delay. And he goes on about saying that barristers and solicitors could do the same. I just didn't. That's just. I mean, what a sad story. He's fought for the country for 4 years. He's sending back his marriage allowance. His wife's pocketing it. She's banking it, and she's shacked up with another guy. Um, and yeah, not a nice lady, I think. Deborah, the little girl was very articulate for 13, wasn't she? Well, she's also writing into papers. I think yeah, she's probably already quite bright. Amanda, so the concept of breaking generational trauma is older than we thought. Yeah. Generational trauma is interesting. It's something I didn't actually, to be honest, think was much of a thing. But yeah, I actually, when you think about it, if someone comes home traumatized, they raise children traumatized, they traumatize the children, they do the same. It's almost unbreakable, actually. I don't see how it peters out. It only ever gets broken. Now, let's go on to something more fun. Here is almost, and don't pick this one out, almost selfie advice. Look pleasant, please. The camera's clicking shutter holds no dread for some brave spirits, but there are others who would would as soon face a firing squad as a camera. A bit extreme. And self-consciousness makes them smirk when they should smile, or gives them the look of a small boy caught in the jam. Caught at the jam. If you're nervous before the camera, breathe deeply. It helps enormously in restoring composure. Remember to relax too, especially to lower your shoulders. Then, before the camera clicks, look past the photographer and imagine you see someone you are fond of, probably the husband or fiance for whom the photograph is being taken. The result will show you at your pleasantest. And then it goes on with more advice. And this is a cut out and keep section of of it. What else have we got down here? Massage. Oh yes, encouraging people to take up massage as a sort of to earn extra money. You've got Colgate making shave cream. Bulmer's cider, that still exists. We've got lots of war photos. Let me. That was a very interesting one. You might have seen that, but I'll have to do a proper article on that. Now, this was the one I was talking about. Should we blame the whole German people? That is the question that is posed. And it says, can we draw a distinction between the Nazis and the Germans? Is the German nation responsible for the crimes of their leaders? Or is there another Germany, in in quotation marks, which will one day take its place in a peaceful Europe? The answer to these questions will dictate the attitude of the fighting forces towards the people of Europe when we invade. Afterwards, it will govern our plans for stopping a repetition of this war. Yeah. So on the yes side, we have Lord Vansittart. Vansittart. We're probably absolutely butchering his name. And on the no side, oh God, another one. Anurin Bevin. So one is a former chief diplomatic advisor to the foreign secretary. That's the Lord. And Bevan is the son of a coal miner and MP for Labour. So Lord Vansittart, who is talking about, he's on the yes side. He's saying, yeah, actually, we should blame the whole German people. But he does start with, where was it? Sorry, this is very small type. If by the whole German people we mean every single German without exception, the answer is obviously no. That would, however, be playing with words. By the whole German people, we can only mean the overwhelming mass of German people as laid down in the counter resolution and carried by a great and wise majority. So obviously it's a long piece, but he goes on to say, I should have brought my glasses down. I retort that it is in this widest, no, let me say something. Sorry, let me find this. They have confused diagnosis and cure. My diagnosis of the malady of the German people will remain harsh because it is true. My cure is humane. I have defined it in 4 words: full larders, empty arsenals. So he has a very interesting point of view, in that he sort of talks about, I think I've got his conclusion over the page actually. I'm going to have to pick it up. I'm sorry. Where am I? The Germans, they will have it on their blind doctrine that rulers are always guilty and the people never to blame. That is mostly true, but not always. The Germans are a flagrant exception. Our new appeasers want to make oft deceived public, but our oft deceived public believe that all will be well when we have a German socialist republic. I'm not going to let them get away with that fraud. It leads straight to that new form of appeasement which is already disquieting all good Europeans. To these far better informed people, it seems that our new appeasers don't know enough to come in out of the rain, and would let us in for another thunderstorm without even Chamberlain's umbrella. Bevan was the founder of the NHS. Okay. So that was the obviously not the full yes argument, because you could see that was very long. So on the no side, Bevan, he talks about if we accept the sort of reasoning indulged in the Vansittarists, so that was a sort of I don't know what you call it, an opinion, a point of view, considers how hopeless and meaningless is the spectacle presented by the present state of the world. German fascism, oh my goodness, is explained by reference to the peculiar and sinister qualities of the German people, Italian fascism by those of the Italian people, Spanish by those of the Spanish, and so on. This bloodstream theory of history makes a nightmare of any attempt to arrive at an intelligent understanding of the social and political difficulties of our time. And he goes on to talk about, well, what does Hitler think himself? Now there is one witness that I propose to call in evidence on the question of whether the majority of German people are enthusiastic cooperators with the Nazis in the bestiality of the past 10 years. That is Hitler himself. No one will deny that Hitler knows the psychology of the German people. If he has proved nothing else, he has proved that. When he started out on his quest for world conquest, what was his first act? It was to prevent the German people from opposing him. He knew he could not trust them to go all the way with him if they were free to back out. So his first act was to deprive them of the right of free expression. He needn't have done that at all. If they are as bad as he is, or as Lord Van Sistart, I wish I knew how to pronounce that properly, makes them out to be, they would have lent themselves wholly to his purposes, and the institutions which had served the social democratic regime would have served him equally well. So basically, Hitler brought in things that meant that people couldn't have freedom of expression. And Bevan's argument is, why would he needed to have done that if they were fully and wholly behind him? And he, he also in his conclusion talks about, but I come back to my main point. The first victim of the Nazis was the ordinary German. When he lost his liberty, ours was in immediate danger, for it is a truism of our world today that unless freedom everywhere exists, it is nowhere safe. Interesting. Hitler himself has put on record that he could not trust a free Germany. It is the testimony of a morbid tyrant to the essential decency of ordinary people everywhere, Germany included, that they cannot be trusted to cooperate in organized bestiality if they are free to do otherwise. And then, again, on a lighter note, check this advert from Mars Bar. Now, something I tried to do a quick Google search on this before I came on, because what I noticed, I picked it out because it's a Mars advert, which we still have Mars bars. It's sustaining, energizing, and nourishing, very nourishing. But here underneath, it says zoning now restricts Mars to the southern counties. So here's hoping for quick victory and plenty of Mars for everyone everywhere. And I tried to look up zoning. So it was only a quick search, but I don't know if anyone's ever heard of that before. I'm going to look into that more. So obviously this was, I'm presuming this was around rationing, and it points to not everyone being able to get everything. Especially presumably Mars is sort of down as a luxury good and very small compared to what we have now. So that's that one. And then the last one, we're going to jump to. Hi, Ali. I can see it. We're going to jump to 1953, April 1953. And there's a whole series of these, which basically do whatever they call it, a royal portfolio, but a piece on each of the royal family. So this is actually Princess Anne. There is one on Charles that I have. There was one on the Queen Mother one, which unfortunately I don't have. But this surprised me, and it's in a couple. Rommel's. So Rommel was a field marshal in the German army, and he took a camera with him everywhere, and he captured his side, I suppose, of the war. And they have some of his photos in here. So let me just see which is the. Here we go. Here's Rommel. And it says here, triumph in France. The 51st Highland Division surrendered at St. Valery on sorry if I've pronounced it wrong, on June the 12th, 1940. Rommel was photographed standing beside Major General Victor Fortune, who was to die in a prison camp, and other British officers. Wonderful moments were wrote Rommel to his wife that night. And as you see, as we go through, that's I think that is him taking the photo. I don't know who's taking the photograph of him. So you've got here. Sorry, let me move it so I can read it. when the general was nearly captured. So, striking into northern France in May 1940, Rommel's tanks met a counterattack near Arras. The German motorized rifle regiments had lagged behind the spearhead. Rommel went back to urge them on. French troops infiltrated, and he was in danger of capture. This one he took. This here of this tank. There's an old tank. And it actually says underneath, relic of 1917. So in the middle of his Blitzkrieg on the doomed Allied armies, Rommel paused to photograph one of the earliest tanks left at Cambrai by the British as a memorial to victory. Imagine what he's thinking when he's taking that. This is horrible. This is this overturned carts and things, and this was. It says underneath, a scene familiar to Rommel. His racing panzers jostled with wandering polis, which I think are French infantrymen, which have been captured. But the general often led. Sorry, no, sorry, I've gone over. A familiar scene to Rommel. His racing panzers have swept aside a refugee column to avoid being jammed on the French roads where scared peasants jostled with wandering poilus. Excuse me. The general often led his armor across open country. For his boldness, Rommel was awarded the Knight's Cross by Hitler. So he's just basically ploughed through a refugee, people fleeing. You've got people fleeing here, and he's taking these photographs. Right. Oh, right. Okay. So something lighter. This whole article here is well, you can see on the left-hand side, it says an expert looks at the souvenirs. So you've got someone called, well, I don't know who he is actually, but oh yeah, Barnett Friedman, a member of the governing council of the Royal College of Art. Vanis Tart. Thank you, Marianne. See, World War II has not been my thing, but this insight into just normal people's lives, but also how things were being reported, is fascinating. And in this particular article, there is major concern over the quality of the souvenirs for the Queen's coronation. And if you see down here at the bottom, I have to say some of these are a little bit dodgy, and I've never seen any. So I wonder how many were sold. But here, so here they actually compare what they consider some of the best and some of the worst. I don't know if you want to guess which one you think was considered the best or the worst. Might show some. Might show what taste you have. So on the right-hand side, you have this lamp. Let me just. Oh, excuse me. We have this lamp, and it is a bit rank, to be fair. This gaudily painted plaster lamp would not suit many rooms. Symbolism is dubious. It's basically a lamp with a crown as the base. But on here, they like this. This is a useful biscuit tin in lime green, grey, and black, which tells its historical story well. And you have Queen Elizabeth II in the middle, and you have 4 queens around the side. You have Queen Elizabeth here on the left. You have her sister, Queen Mary, here on the right. Below Queen Mary, you have Queen Victoria. And on the left here, I think that is Queen Anne. So for some reason, Queen Mary doesn't get a mention. I mean, she was joint monarch, but she was still queen. So I don't know why she wasn't on there. What else have we got? Oh, so I haven't read this whole article, but I've picked it out just to show you. And I will, well, again, if I find something interesting, I'll do something more on it. But it's a whole article about this guy who called himself a psychic surgeon, Jesse Thomas. And it says, seen here at a Brighton meeting, claims startling cures. And here down here, we have Mrs. Madeline Horseman, 60-year-old laundry manageress of Salisbury says she was cured after a psychic operation. And the article is about looking into this impartially and as a matter of public interest. I think we can probably be pretty sure he was a charlatan, but how fascinating that they cover this. Look how many people, well, they're all, no, not all, but mainly, if you look at the crowd, women who have who've come to see her. And this is his wife, I believe, who is his assistant. Um, Before an operation, which they put in quotation marks, Jesse Thomas goes through the motions of pulling on surgical gloves. Diagnosis is easy, he says, because his guide can see into the body. With his eyes shut, Jesse Thomas goes into a trance. He says he is taken over by a German surgeon who operates on the spiritual body of the patient. Okay. So let me, and you've got a picture of him here having a bit of a rest afterwards because he needs one after he's performed an operation. Okay, sure. Here is a cigarette advert. When I was saying that you get ones that's smooth. This is smooth. Smooth is the key word. It says Uffa Fox. Smooth to lips, smooth to the taste, smooth to the throat. Craven A cigarettes. I have seen signs up on a heritage railway that actually of cigarette adverts which claimed to heal sore throats. I said earlier about there being um sort of things that are similar now to today's concerns. This The town that is dying. Now, we don't quite get this, but I remember in my lifetime, but maybe 20 years ago, there being a big concern about town centres dying. And this is a whole article about a place called Bishop's Waltham in Hampshire, saying that it is just it's dying. There's nothing going on. Everyone is leaving. Um, I've looked up, it's okay, Bishop's Waltham has survived, and in fact, they have 7,000 people living there, so we're okay. Amanda says, I think the zoning thing from the Mars bar ad might have been referring to the bombing zones. Yeah, I've never seen anything about zoning and rationing. Yeah, I'm really interested to look into that further. Now, again, mental health concerns, of course, these are happening in the aftermath. I know we're 53, so not even quite 10 years after the end of the war. No more depression. Look at this. I imagine this is actually the answer. And it's basically an advert for vitamin B1 tablets for power and poise. Nice. You get both. Oh, continental holidays are cheaper this year. Look at this. So this is a Sabina Belgian Airlines advert for. Should we see where we could go? Could go to Naples for £51 and 15 shillings. Would that be? You go to Belgium. You go to Italy, Switzerland, Spain, France. France is £27. Switzerland 26. Belgium you can go for 11. So there you are. So honestly, I could definitely just keep going. There is so much. But I'm gonna leave that one there for today. You can I can go over some other time if you'd like. I'll probably pick out some, like I say, for my Patreon, and I'll put them in there. If I let you know what else is going on as well. Ooh, bit of a background. So I'm currently reading this book. So before I go, let me tell you about this. This is my advanced reader copy, so this is not out yet. This is by Professor Alice Hunt on the Republic. So the when she as she calls it, Britain's Revolutionary Decade, 1649 to 1660. I will be interviewing Alice about this period, which is one that is becoming of greater interest now, and rightfully so. Lots of things happened and didn't happen in the way that we've sort of been told. Again, it's another victim of being summarized and over summarized. Very insightful as to what happens when there's massive change. What happens next? So anyway, so I will be interviewing Alice Hunt. If you are in my Patreon and you have any questions that you want to put to Alice about the Republic, then I will be posting. I'll put a post in Patreon to ask for those questions, as I do every time I interview uh, a dog's up and about. Can you hear him? Every time I do interview a historian, so I will do that. The other book, so I'm reading that one, and the other book. And I know this is a little bit hard going, but Elizabeth Norton's Elfrida. And we are reading this for book club. Book club is, I can't remember the date. It's after I come back off holiday. 7th, something like that, of July. Anyway, so that's all the details are in my Patreon. So you can go and check that out at patreon.com/British history. You are very welcome. You're very welcome for some people saying thank you for sharing those today. Yeah, thank you. So, like I say, these are sort of the general ones. I say general, the ones in the war years, I think are absolutely fascinating. And there was loads more in there. Maybe I'll pick out things from now, every now and again. But if you're, so I'll just pop that, just to pop this back on again, just to show you the front cover of one of the others. A peer prepares for the coronation. So actually, I have tons of publications around the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II. And I don't know if you remember, but I think the peers were told not to wear, they were told not to wear their furs, weren't they? I think at Prince Charles's, at King Charles's coronation. You can see down here, Prince Charles, a wonderful cover souvenir. I'll just quickly show you this and then we'll go. Oh, look, bird's eye custard. There we go. So you could have your own colour poster of Charles when he was Duke of Cornwall. How lovely, how cute is that? So anyway, so maybe I'll do something around the coronation bits. I wish I'd have had them last year. Was it last year? Yes, when Charles was crowned. Time goes by so fast. Yeah, so maybe we'll do that. And if I can do the George V one, which is incredibly fragile, I'll tell you something actually. So I've got George V, I've got George VI. Now, if you remember with Queen Elizabeth II's lying in state, the length of the queues to go and see her was sort of deemed. We were sort of told they were unprecedented. Actually, for her father, they look like they were just as long. So maybe I'll go through that with you one day. So I will wrap up soon. If you are around tonight and you are a History After Dark fan, then me and the girls are back at 8:15. We are on the History After Dark channel, and we are doing a review, a roundup of the last 4 candidates of our History Heroes series. So we have Isaac Newton to score. We're going to score them all. Isaac Newton, Dr. Edward Jenner, Isambard Kingdom Brunel, and Ada Lovelace. So if you're around and you want some easy viewing with a bit of history and some facts all loaded in, then please do join us tonight on History After Dark at 8:15 UK time. And I will see you all after I'm back from a few more travels next week, same time next week. All right, bye everyone. Take care.